To order the
January 11th.
January 11th, excuse me, public hearing of the City of Prescott Preservation Commission. The members present at this meeting are a full house.
All 7 of us are here.
Right. Tony Teeters, James McCarver, Russ Buchanan, Michael Murko. I'm going to get your name spelled right here one of these days. Gary Edelbrock, Mike King, and I'm Robert Burford, the chair. Kat Moody, our historic preservation specialist, is in attendance. George Worley, the planning manager, is here. We have a new recording secretary. She'll introduce herself.
My name's Michelle Chavez.
Michelle, thank you. And Councilman Good. And members of the public.
And Bryn Stoller, the Community Development
Development
Director.
Manager.
Yes. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped and tape recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, local cable, and/or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The number of commission members present is 7. It will require 4 votes for a majority. Anyone wishing to be heard on an issue are required to raise their hands and be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking, and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off your cell phones, other electronic devices if you haven't already done so, and please sign the attendance roster before leaving the meeting at the table at the entry. We have a full agenda here today. We have missed a couple of meetings over the last year. I think this year will be pretty busy, seeing the state of affairs in Prescott of growth happening. So I hope we all take it to heart to review all of these projects seriously and entertain any public comments on any of these issues. Our first agenda item, we do, as I understand it, I'm looking here that we do not have minutes for the previous meeting.
We do not. They will be available next month for approval.
Okay. So our first issue on the agenda is HP 19-001, 929 Apache Drive. It's in the Historic Preservation District number 10 of Pinecrest. There's a request for approval for remodel of a rear garage building, and I will give this to Kat Moody to present.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
As stated, this is at 929 Apache in the Pinecrest subdivision, and we've reviewed quite a few projects over the last couple of years at this location. And first I'll address some of those projects that have come before. This was a house that had been remodeled without a permit in the rear. The front of the house is generally intact, and you all ended up reviewing that rear addition, which actually required removing some of the work that had been done without a permit, and then a modification of the remodel to make the rear addition conform to the hip roof configuration that you see here. And then most recently, we reviewed the fencing associated with this project. And that item was within the last 12 months, and that fencing, I believe, has been completed at this time. This request involves the rear garage structure, which is not part of the National Register listing. And the front home itself is no longer listed in the National Register due to modifications through the years. So the rear structure is not considered historic as far as being listed in the register, but it is it's probably of the era of the original construction of the house. Most likely this shed roof addition here was added on at some point in the past. The request is to keep the existing footprint of that garage and remodel it into a caretaker's residence. The owner of this home is concerned about needing care as she's aging and would like to have somebody live in this garage remodeled structure in order to assist with caregiving for her. So let's look at the plan. And apparently this is as far out as this will zoom at this point. So I'll have to kind of shift things around here. So this is the garage footprint. This is the front of the structure. So this is the garage portion, and then this is the shed roof addition. And so this is the configuration for kind of a studio-style living quarters. The proposal is to have the front of the building still maintain a garage-like appearance, and then the finishes for the exterior will match the house as it's been remodeled with a board and batten style siding. And so the plan is to have this exterior basically match the remodeled house. So there'll be board and batten as you see here on the north elevation. That's the rear, and then the south elevation is what you'll see from the street. And so it will still appear to be a garage type setup. There is the addition of a metal shed style roof that will match the porch roof that's been added to the front of the home. So that's the one exterior change that is an added roof plane that's not there presently. So there is that to create a front porch. And then looking at the east elevation, you can see that roof I've mentioned, creating a front porch. And then this is the west elevation here. And that's looking at that. This is the shed roof currently, which is being proposed to be remodeled as a cross gable type of roof. And the plan is to keep, like I said, the existing footprint. They are planning to, in order to do that, because this is a grandfathered structure, currently you can see it's sitting basically at the property line, which doesn't meet current setbacks. By keeping the structure in place and not removing it and recreating it, they're going to be able to keep that grandfathered footprint for the remodel. So the plan is to frame a 2x4 wall interior to the existing vertical siding you see there. They're going to be doing a spray foam insulation within that wall, and then a 1/2-inch sheetrock interior to that. And then, as I stated, the exterior will be the board and batten to match the existing main house. The only significant changes visually will be the addition of the shed roof here on the front, and then the conversion of this shed roof addition to a cross gable style roof. And then, as stated, this will still maintain a garage-like appearance in this facet here of the facade. And we do have the applicants here to answer any additional questions. And with that, I'll turn it over to you all for discussion.
Thank you, Kat. I have a couple of things. I note that there's this porch roof in the front actually appears, unless I'm reading this incorrectly, appears to wrap around the west side. So there is some more.
It
not-
does.
Not footprint, but more mass to the building there to make kind of an entryway, I see. So that's enlarges it. And I'd like to ask George Worley, sorry, I'm looking past you, whether I would have liked to have seen a site plan on this, just to see how it, even though it's existing, but I'm curious after looking at the site how I'm assuming that this fits into the situation of building within the same footprint in terms of setbacks and zoning requirements.
It does. There are two sides to the building that are non-conforming to setbacks at the moment. Both of those sides are remaining in place, so there's no addition or encroachment further into the setback requirements on those two sides. So it's the south side and east side?
East side.
East side. The addition of the porch towards the front and around the side of the building on the west side, closer to the house, are interior to the lot and are not subject to the setback requirements at this point.
Okay, thank you for that, George. Anyone on the commission, go ahead.
Is the white fencing going to stay, or is it going to be removed?
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm the project manager for Tanya Kennedy.
Is the white fence,
Please state your name and
Go
address.
ahead.
Oh, the white fence, yeah, the
Excuse
white.
me, just a moment, just go ahead and give your name and
Oh, I'm
address
Richard
first.
Sweeten. I'm the one that drew up the plans.
And your address, please.
Okay. The
Richard.
white fence will remain.
Just a moment, just a moment. Just
Okay.
give us your name and your address, please, and then go ahead with your
Okay,
comments.
I'm Richard Sweeten. I'm at 303 East Gurley,
Thank
here
you.
in Prescott.
Thank you.
Okay. There will be an opening. Right now, the fence goes all the way to the garage. There will be an opening between the garage and the fence. It's shown on the plan there, so that they can get access to the door, which is on the west side of the existing garage.
so the fence stays, basically?
Yes, just with an opening, right. Yeah.
So there will be an opening here where there is a fence because there's going to be a porch here and access to the structure.
And that's also why the extension, the roof was added to give covered for when they're walking down here, and so the eaves aren't dripping on them.
So is there parking in the
Yes.
garage, or behind the garage, or on the
No,
driveway?
right now the garage is being used for storage. There is no parking behind or to the side. That's where it's close to the other people's boundaries.
So the parking right now, you can see a car parked here or a vehicle.
Right. The driveway is set as 71 feet, 2 inches long, so it falls underneath that criteria for 3 spaces.
Right.
What's the flooring in the building? It looks like it's sitting on dirt.
It is.
So how are we going to remedy that without moving the building?
It's just going to be supported and then come out underneath it with a new slab and poured underneath it.
So are you jacking it up?
It may go up, have to go up a little bit. There is some rot on the bottom of where the wood touches, but that'll be replaced with a block wall. So that'll be a solid, structure when it's all done.
And I don't see any heating.
The heating will be done either with a mini split or with forced air, a space heater inside. The homeowner hasn't made up her mind to that yet.
It won't be a roof mounted?
No, it'll be a mini split. If it's a mini split, more than likely the unit will be on the external unit will be on the west side.
So a mini split, for those of you who don't know, is a wall-mounted unit that provides both heating and cooling, and there's generally, it's high up on a wall, and then there's usually an external component that sits on the ground exterior to the building.
Are there,
That's all I had.
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Russ.
You stated that the structure will be jacked up a little bit and then a concrete slab poured.
More or less supported so that the work can be done
You
underneath.
mentioned a block wall.
Well, a stem wall.
Okay, stem wall at or below grade of the existing floor.
Right.
So
Or
that's
not the
being
existing
shown.
floor, but the proposed floor.
So that's being shown here on this north
It's
elevation.
shown right there.
You can see the stem wall.
All righty. Thank you.
We've done everything we could to match the existing structure. All right, that was the theme in doing this, would be to carry that whole theme through, okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments pertaining to how this fits into the neighborhood or its historic?
Have we had any comments from neighbors on this? You know, like the next door neighbor, are they okay with that? you know?
I've not heard from anybody at this point.
Okay. Any other comments or anyone from the audience wishing to speak?
Mr. Chairman, shall we vote?
Yes.
Motion to approve HP 19-001.
Second.
Mr. Teeter, second.
I have a motion and second to approve this particular submission.
I seconded, I think Tony did as well.
Yeah, Tony seconded it, yes?
You can third it.
I'll take thirds.
Okay, those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Okay, number 2 on our agenda is HP 19-002, 156 South Montezuma Street, Unit E, in our downtown historic preservation district number 1, Courthouse Plaza. It is a request for signage in the alley, and again, I'll have Ms. Moody review this for us.
As stated, this is in Whiskey Row Alley, and we have reviewed signage in this location in the past. This is a new business that's going into this space, which is the Back Alley Wine Bar. And the sign has, as you can see, has already been installed, so this is an after-the-fact approval. They've come in for a sign permit, and then they're coming before this commission to get approval for this sign. It is it's a little hard to tell the scale here, so I'm going to give you the dimensions. It's 1 foot in depth. I know it looks much larger based on the photo, and it's 4 feet high. And so as you can see, it's a perpendicular sign with small bulbs lighting the exterior. This is sitting to the side of the door. You can see in this image. This light is actually above the door, which is recessed on this side of the building, and then this sign is the perpendicular sign to the side. They do have signage on the door, which is not a permitted sign in the city. We allow signage in windows and doors without having to acquire a sign permit. The other sign that is not up at this time is a flat panel mounted sign, which this is an image of that sign, and that is to be located in the sign panel area that sits on the south side of this building. That sign panel configuration has been previously approved by this commission as a designated space to hold signage for this block of establishments that are on the rear side of the building. So this would be a flat panel with no lighting associated with it. And I do have the business owner here. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all. And actually, Sherry, would you come up and just tell us about your business so that these folks can know what this is about?
Sure. Good morning. I think
Your
it's
name-
pretty
your name and
self-explanatory. I'm sorry?
Your name and address. first.
Sorry, Sherry Shaw. Do you want the business address?
Sure, that's.
156 South Montezuma, Suite E. Yeah, it's going to be a wine bar. We're going to have 3 different flights for tasting. We're going to have wine for takeout. You can sit and have a glass, a bottle, whatever you prefer. Live music on the weekends. That's about it.
Is the access only from the alley?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, there's a door through the old rancher's wife, but it's blocked off.
This was previously the PK Bootmaker
Yeah.
space.
Right, thank you.
So it's actually on the alley behind Montezuma,
Correct.
the entrance is, okay.
So this is kind of right across from the parking garage steps there in the Whiskey Row Alley. So, you're looking at, say, the backside of Firehouse Plaza and the parking garage steps going down.
It's not actually in the plaza, the Firehouse Plaza, though.
No, it's not. It's the backside of the rancher's wife, which is about to become the Western Heritage
Heritage.
Museum.
Do you have outdoor seating at all?
No, I wish.
I'm going to jump in here again with George, just for my edification mainly. That alley, is this encroaching? I mean, there are other exiting stairs, steel stairs, fire escapes, et cetera, in that alley, and I'm just curious as to how that works with the ordinances, and also there are dumpsters on the other side, multiples going down. That alley over the years has kind of shrunk. I know we're only talking about a 1-foot sign, but it's more on the logistics of it.
And you can see some of that in the image here. You can see some of these fire escapes and then these electrical boxes here that are, and then the dumpsters are on this side over here on the left side of that image.
What the image doesn't do is, because of the perspective, the shot is close to this sign, it appears to project further. It does not. Most of the other projections you see back further in the photo extend a foot or more past the extent of this sign into the alley. We don't anticipate a problem with it. Those projections have been there for years. This does not project further than those projections. And in the downtown district, we do allow perpendicular signs projecting out over the right-of-way.
Right,
So
and
you'll
they-
notice those several places elsewhere in downtown. Generally, they're on the front of the buildings because that's generally the access is the street side. But because of the unique circumstances along Whiskey Row Alley, we have several accesses that are primarily focused on the alley. So,
Okay, thank you for that
Problem.
clarification.
I have one question. The sign at the base looks like it's midway in the door, height-wise. Is that somebody gonna, you understand what I'm saying?
If you look here, you can see that's the transom window above the door. So this is the top of the door.
Okay.
So it's quite a ways above the door.
I didn't see that.
So does the city have any ordinances directing or the type of sign or the size or the,
actually, it's going to be more the downtown district requirements and the historic district requirements.
The Historic Preservation Master Plan, it doesn't have a, directive regarding perpendicular signs. We do have, as I noted in the staff memo, quite a few perpendicular signs in the Courthouse Plaza district. The largest ones are grandfathered in, signs like St. Michael's and the one on the corner opposite that, and those are all grandfathered perpendicular signs. But this commission has approved other perpendicular signs, say On the old Masonic Temple building, there's a dentist sign that's perpendicular due to the fact that their business would not have been visible without that perpendicular sign. We have reviewed other perpendicular signs that were not approved. I believe Lone Spur Cafe was one of them in years past, which was a request for a very large perpendicular sign, which would have required drilling into stone that was completely intact. In this case, this is a stuccoed surface that has had other signs associated with previous businesses.
Outside of the historic requirements, there are a couple of requirements for the city's general sign code relating to perpendicular type signs. It can't extend more than 3 feet beyond the face of the building. Exterior exposed light bulbs are generally not allowed, but those are regular full-size light bulbs. And one of the things that this sign has, while they're exposed light bulbs, they're about that big.
Right.
We've determined that that really doesn't fall under the same category as the exposed light bulb requirements that would limit you to some kind of cover over them in normal circumstances.
That's a dark sky ordinance-driven requirement.
And this meets all the electrical codes, too?
Yes, or it will at the time of the permit being issued.
And that's a building permitting issue, not something you would have to worry about.
So this sign will be lit. Those light bulbs are operable, they're not decorative.
Correct.
They're both, I guess, decorative and operable, yeah. Okay.
What are your hours of operation?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to do during the week 11 to 8 p.m. and then at night, on the weekends 11 to 10.
Thank you. My name is Mike. I happened to look at that last night thinking I would see some lights. They're not open yet.
I'm hoping shortly. I'm just waiting on my liquor license.
Yeah, that would be the only sign in the alleyway that's perpendicular to the face of the building. And it is when you turn into the alley, it's a one-way alley. You have to look really hard to see that sign because it's small. The pictures, again, exaggerate. It looks like Las Vegas with that sign, but it's not. But it is, again, the only sign that is perpendicular. The rest of the buildings and buildings or signage and from back alley access are flat against the building. This still allows us to do that by exception.
Yes,
Or by,
certainly, yeah. And because there's very few businesses that have a sole entrance in the alley.
In the alley.
So the other businesses which are using a flat panel sign it's a secondary entrance. They generally have access from Montezuma
From the
Street.
street, yeah. Thank you. No other questions, thank you.
Other comments or questions from anyone? Then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve APN 19020. HP 1902018.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second?
it. Yeah.
We have a motion and second to approve this particular,
I kind of like it.
and a comment on the looks of this. I have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, and good luck. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Thanks, Kat.
Item number 3 on our agenda is HP 19-003, 415 East Gurley Street, Historic Preservation District Number 3, Southeast Prescott. This request is for a major remodel, is for approval for a major remodel and additions, I guess subtractions actually, to this particular building, which was the old Jack in the Box in days gone by. I don't know when this was built? Maybe Kat will have that in her presentation.
Yes, I do. The current building was constructed in 1971, but we're going to take a little trip down memory lane here
Thank you.
because this building replaced probably the best-known historic structure in Prescott. So this was the location of the Bashford House. Bashford was the son of the Bashford family that moved to Prescott in the 1860s and established the Bashford, part of the Bashford Burmester company, which was located where the Bashford building is today, and that's Bashford Courts. So that was the location of a large mercantile, and William Bashford was the son of the family that established that. He and his wife purchased a modest building. This is from 1890 Sanborn map, and you can see it was a simple structure. It was considered a Victorian cottage. We don't have any, there are no known photographs of that structure as it was originally configured. So if we move forward 5 years, so here we are, let me orient this the same way. You can see they've already started to build additions and additional structures on the lot. Moving forward to 1901, we have these dotted lines on the Sanborn map are is a wraparound front porch. So you can see there's further additions. By 1910, we've kind of established the pattern that the building would continue to have until 1924, where an additional component was added. And then this is from 1948 Sanborn map. And so there were several additions through the years that ended up producing a configuration that is the existing Bashford House. Through the years, it ended up getting sold. It was a single-family residence once the Bashfords sold it to another property owner, and then over time, through the 40s and 50s, 60s, it became apartments, and at one point it was actually an 8-unit apartment building. So interior remodeling had occurred, but the exterior was generally kept the same. In 1974, the property was slated to become a Jack in the Box. It was Prescott's first fast food restaurant to be located in town. And the owner donated the house to Charlotte Hall Museum, but did not have the funds to move it to Charlotte Hall Museum. And this was really the birth of historic preservation in Prescott, because it was a community grassroots effort to raise the funds to move the Bashford House to Charlotte Hall Museum. And so this is a shot of the Bashford House, part of it. It was disassembled into 7 different sections, and this is the Bashford House being moved down Gurley Street on a flatbed. And this is a shot of the Bashford House on Charlotte Hall Museum grounds, where it was restored and then reopened in 1977. So that's what used to be on this lot, but we're not dealing with that. That's just a slight tangent, just so you realize what used to be located here. Prior to the Jack in the Box restaurant, this is, let's see, let me situate that. So this is the existing Jack in the Box footprint. This is the existing parking lot. The proposal here is to modify the structure, which experienced a grease fire and has been vacant for the past 4 or 5 years. And Jack in the Box moved out from that building, and it's been sitting vacant. The changes are generally surface treatment changes, and I'll put those up in a moment. The only structural change that's being proposed here is this back corner of the building, the current drive-through, likely because it was such an early fast food restaurant in Prescott, didn't originally have a drive-through. It was retrofitted, and it's very tight, and the turning radius is really not up to current standards for drive-through windows. So they're proposing to remove this back corner of the building, and that will require, this is that back corner, that will require some roof changes. This structure has a Mansford-style roof, and wow, that's really dark. Let me see if I can. It's a little bit better. You can see it's got an existing Mansford-style roof. That has a sort of a architectural or a 3-tab style shingle on it now. The proposal is to do a standing seam metal roof on over that Mansford roof. And then the color here is what they're calling a Bosa red. So the business is Bosa Donuts, and they have a color palette that's associated with the brand. And so the standing seam metal roof here would cover that Mansford style roof, and then they're painting the existing slump block a color that's fairly similar to what is existing, but it's a kind of an oatmeal color on that block. The window configuration and door configuration is generally staying the same. And then in the rear, you'll have the revised an additional roof plane as depicted in this plan view here. And then the approval also includes the signage, which, let me see if I zoom in, if you can see that a little better, which is barely visible in this rendering, but because it's red on red. So the top portion, and you all have a hard copy of this in your packet, so I'm sure you can see it there. It's red lettering, Bosa Donuts, and then coffee and smoothies is in yellow beneath that. And that's mounted to that roof, or, set off from that roof plane, and that's facing Gurley Street. And we do have a representative from the project here, and with that, I will turn it over to you all for questions.
Thank you, Kat. Does the representative wish to?
I'm Richard Hernandez, 790 East San Carlos Way, Chandler, Arizona.
Thank you.
If you all have any questions.
It's the sign intended to be, I didn't notice any lighting on there.
So the sign will be backlit.
Okay.
So it's like a, yeah, the red and yellow will illuminate through those colors, just so it stands out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners?
Well, I'm just happy to see something being done with that building.
Yeah, it's going to be a project, that's for sure. One thing I didn't notice, for some reason it didn't come out on the rendering, is that on the north, I guess the west side, will be another sign.
Yeah,
Right, not to your left, Kat. Right there. There'll be another Bosa Donut sign
Okay.
to match the one facing Gurley Street.
So this is the one facing Gurley where you can
Right.
see it mounted on this arm.
Right.
And there'll be,
Same size?
I'm sorry?
Both the same size?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for addressing that, because that was one of my questions. As you come up Gurley, you wouldn't know what that's there unless you could see a sign, or if you were going to change the signing from the road.
Yes, sir.
Because I didn't see any signs there that say the past.
There is a pedestal Jack-in-the-Box sign. Typically, in the past, what we've done is we've retrofitted Jack-in-the-Boxes before, and typically what we've done is removed that old sign And I'm not sure if we'll do it on this site, but replace that, it's a square placard, and I think it's like 6x6. We typically do replace that, and it does say Bosa Donuts, and that's pretty much all it says. Not sure if we're gonna do that yet or not, but that's in discussion.
Couple of other items, the drive-up signage for ordering. There is a panel of sorts there. Are you reusing that, or?
Yes, sir, that will be refurbished. And typically when we refurbish those, if they weren't backlit before, they will be backlit at that time.
So this is the one you're referring to, Robert? The existing,
Well, actually, I'm sorry.
this one here?
That's the one we'll most likely use. The other,
Standing that you typically would drive up to and speak into, and, or speak your order
Right.
near.
So that's this one here.
yeah, there's that one there, but there is also another one on the south side there.
It's
Kat.
just a menu.
Yeah, it's just a preview board.
Okay.
And just another question on the drive-through is what would you say the percentage of business that's drive-through and percentage that I drove through there and came out, you end up in basically the alley or adjacent to the alley there, so you have a nice wide access onto Gurley, but
So this is the alley you're referring to? And that's the drive-through.
right, so they conjoin, and then you need to get out onto Gurley there. Is there any right turn only, or?
Well,
Anything like
that's a good question. Right now, there's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't, there's nothing to say we can't go left, but, we're not proposing to go, to make it a right turn only situation. But maybe that's not a bad idea, just to keep the flow of traffic.
It might
My,
sort
my
itself out.
memory of the Jack in the Box was there were often times where there were people stacked exiting.
Yes.
Because a left turn during certain times of the day is quite difficult on Gurley. But there never was a right turn only when Jack in the Box occupied the space.
I would recommend that you look into that and work with the city a bit on that, maybe ask them ask transportation or planning, what might work there, because you're not only crossing two eastbound lanes, and you're crossing a double yellow line into the westbound lanes, and it can be done. And there are times when Gurley's not all that busy. I understand that, and then have to go around the block, but you might pursue that a little bit more with the city.
Sure. Question, is there, I can't remember, is there a light off of, is that Pleasant Street now, or
That is,
Mount Vernon.
that's,
Mount Vernon Street? Is there a light at that area, at that intersection?
Right.
yeah, so there's not a light on Pleasant, but yeah, there is a light at Mount Vernon, which
Okay.
is, oops, over here.
Excuse me.
Okay,
It is one building over, so there's not a light, there is a light immediately to the east.
Right, it's not right on the corner, and it may fit that criteria for distance from a corner to be able to turn left, et cetera.
Right.
But
okay.
I would recommend
And,
that.
transportation engineering will be reviewing the plans when they come in for a building permit, so they will weigh in on that.
Okay.
Okay.
But it may be to your advantage to contact them prior to submitting your plans,
Transportation
just, yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what the hours of operation will be?
Typically on a store of this size, they would normally go 24 hours. But being that this is the, the town that it is, I think the owner right now is proposing 5 to 10. So,
I think business would be pretty light between 10 PM and 5 AM.
yeah, and when I say it's 24 hours, these donuts are baked fresh daily. So they start their workday around 10 to get ready for the next day.
So somebody's there,
There, and that's why I say this could be a 24, this will be a 24-hour operation internally, but as far as open to the public, the cutoff time will most likely be around 10.
Thank you. Are there other comments, concerns?
So, what are the black dots? Are you changing the exterior?
That's the accessible access. So that's the,
Yeah. So that's not like a roof line or anything like
No.
that?
No, sir.
Okay.
no, they're showing the pathway that you would access the business, say if you were in a wheelchair or with a walker or something like that.
And then
How
on,
many of these stores do they have in the state of Arizona?
Currently, there's 24 stores,
24.
primarily in the, well, they're all in the, well, we have one in Payson now, but typically, primarily, they're all in the Valley, Phoenix, Chandler, Tempe, Mesa area. One in Casa Grande.
Following up on, go right ahead, go right ahead.
the drive-through, that you're changing the enlarging the radius of the drive-through? Is that going to require a lot of construction? It looked like there was a telephone pole right at that turn on one of the pictures.
So there is a telephone pole there.
There is, yes.
That telephone pole is right on the property line, and that's why we're opting to go into the building versus, to the property line itself, because there is a retaining wall.
Yep.
You can kind of see that there, and that's actually where the gas main is there to the meter. And so we didn't want to disturb any of that area. So we will have to redo a little bit of the curbing. I think it's about 12 feet. The radius will have to be redone, but that's it to the site itself.
Are you taking part of the corner of the building off and redoing that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep, so there's about a 3 by 10 foot slice they're taking out of the building here in order to accommodate moving that inner curb in.
So there's no restrictions on changing the exterior of the building or anything?
No. I mean, number one, this building, from a historic preservation perspective, is not listed in the National Register. It's a modern building, and even if it was, which it's not, the changes in the rear of the building, and generally we view those as much more acceptable from a historic preservation perspective.
I have a couple more things, following up on the accessible route. It will be looked at again, and it does not appear the spaces themselves slope too much, I'll put it that way. But not a lot too much, but the city may have some comments on that, or it may be grandfathered in, et cetera, et cetera. So just a word to the wise on those issues. The parking spaces themselves are greater than 2%, so.
No, you're absolutely right, and if that, in the pre-app meeting, that wasn't a concern.
Yeah.
But it is a concern to the owners, so what we talked about is the two accessible spaces that are currently existing. We've talked about putting in a gutter at the what would be the west side of the accessible spaces, and flattening out those parking spaces.
So you're fully aware of that.
We've thought of it, but in updating the site, we were kind of concerned that it would trigger a bunch of other items down the road with first flush and grading of the exterior parking and things of that nature. So, is it grandfathered in? Most likely, but it is a concern of the owner that, we want to make it safe too.
And you may also be attending to, I noticed some areas for landscape to remain. I'm assuming that means new landscaping will be in there of some ilk in those areas and tended to. Obviously, this building has not been used in years, so it's
Right.
not
So
been maintained.
Pretty much the only landscaping is these shrubs, and I apologize for this being dark on the screen, but.
Yeah, and those shrubs carry through on the north and west side. So,
And at the rear, I guess I was noticing at the rear there, and as you drive up to the order location, there's some dirt, curbed in dirt landscaped areas.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
some
sure you're
shrubbery
thinking
and,
about those,
yeah,
yeah.
shrubbery and
Sounds
granite
like
would
a,
be real nice back there.
Thought-through project. You've done it before, so you know what some of the pitfalls are. So, any other comments for the gentleman or in general? Russ?
Motion to approve. HP 19-003.
Motion, second?
22nd.
I'll second that.
Oh,
Tony
we had
did.
a second. Sorry, I'm taking my time here. We have a motion to approve and a second to that motion. This third agenda item on East Gurley Street. Those in favor of approving this submittal, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you
Thank
for
taking
coming up,
on this
Richard.
challenge.
Appreciate it. Do you, just as a curiosity, do you have a time frame that you're shooting for opening?
Well, we're gonna submit for permit hopefully in 2 to 3 weeks,
Okay.
and that process should take,
Yeah, okay,
and so construction will probably start in a couple of months.
okay.
And if it's construction on this size, it'll probably be about 3 months.
So maybe end of
First
summer,
of the summer.
yeah, sometime in the summer. Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Great. Those are our major agenda items. We now ask for any updates or comments or current event issues from anyone, especially Ms. Moody.
I just wanted to make a note that we are continuing to plan for the upcoming 2019, 2019 Historic Preservation Statewide Conference, which will be held at the Hacienda and the Elks building across the street. And myself and Bill Otwell, local architect, are on that committee. And sessions have been submitted. They are selecting sessions which will be on the agenda. And Bill and myself will be doing a walking tour downtown as part of that conference. And then my predecessor, Nancy Burgess, is going to be working with Mick Woodcock and a person who's the cultural resources manager at the Veterans Administration. And they will be doing a walking tour over there to go over the history of the VA. So those two things are definitely being moved forward. And then I will also be presenting a couple of additional sessions beyond the walking tour as well, to represent the city for that. We will be, in the last time the conference was here was in 2012, and we offered up to all the members of the commission to be able to attend. It is a good training opportunity for you all. So I'll be approaching you once registration opens to see if you're interested in attending that conference. So just wanted to give you an update on that. And that's pretty much all I have, unless you have other questions for me.
The dates for that again, please,
They're June,
roughly.
it's mid-June, but I can give you the exact dates. Let me just pull it up on my, it is June 11th, 12th, and 13th, and 14th. And the 11th is, there's not a session going on, so it's Wednesday, June 12th through Friday, June 14th.
Thank you, everyone. Make note of that.
What are the usual hours?
Of the conference? There's normally a breakfast in the morning, and I think the first sessions tend to begin at 8:30 or 9. And then the sessions normally go through close to 5 o'clock. And then lunch is usually provided as part of it. And then there are some evening activities too. There's usually an evening reception on 2 of the nights.
How many people normally attend this?
We normally get about 400, yeah, between 300 and 400 people. And so it will fill the Hacienda. They're offering a discounted rate for the conference because a lot of people leave after the Friday sessions and go back down to the valley. And we do get attendees from all over the state because it's not only historic preservationists, say like myself, or consultants, but it also covers archaeology. And so there's archaeologists who are working for both, federal, state, and local agencies, as well as a tribal presence as well. So it's a diverse group of people that are part of the conference. So some of the sessions are definitely dealing with archaeology and cultural resources, and then other aspects of the conference are dealing with, state and federal law regarding both archaeology and historic preservation, and then other sessions are definitely geared toward architecture. So
Kat, how many people stay for the whole 4 days?
most people stay for the whole 4 days, yeah, or at least 3 days.
Okay.
The Wednesday session, they often offer workshops, pre-conference workshops that are half-day sessions. And so those attract people who come in, those people come in a day earlier who participate in those. But we will fill the Hacienda. It's probably very close to already being booked completely at this point. And then there'll be spillover into other hotels in the area. Oftentimes people end up going to the St. Mike's, who can't get a room at the Hacienda just because it's walking distance downtown.
Prescott Resort?
Well, and some people stay, outside, in various places and drive into the conference each day, so.
Good for bed tax.
Yeah, it should be. And, and it puts people, one of the things we've, in the past, when the conference is held at other locations and you can get everybody at a sit-down lunch, they provide a sit-down lunch, but in this case, because we don't have a location that will accommodate everybody at a sit-down lunch, we will be releasing people into downtown to go have lunch. So we'll be working with some of the restaurants to provide discounts to conference attendees, but that will also, put all of those people downtown to have a meal, so.
Are there talks that run, where they have multiple talks running
They
simultaneously?
do, yes. Yeah, we will have probably 4 to 5 sessions running simultaneously. So we're using conference rooms, breakout rooms at both the Hacienda and on the second and third floor of the Elks, or on the third floor of the Elks building, as well as the main auditorium in the Elks, the actual theater, so.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
By the way, Mr. Teeters has a meeting at 9 with the city manager, so he's got to go.
Right, yeah, I think we're done.
Well, do we have other?
Well, just take a minute here, just to add some anecdotes on the Bashford House. The children were let out of school that day in Prescott so they could watch that building go down Gurley Street. And the kids, when we do the tours at the museum, Charlotte Hall Museum, they get a kick out of that because they don't get out to see those kinds of things. Last of all, is we did the tally for the number of tour guides and tour guests we had with the Chamber of Commerce, about 1,100. That's pretty much the last 3-year total, anywhere from 950 to 1,100. We had more special tours this year than normal for our numbers. But one thing we didn't have is we had no special visitors come in December to partake of the lighting or the ACR or any of the activities. Usually there's buses that come in or places from California and the Valley. We had absolutely none. I don't know what the story is on that for the Chamber. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
Any other comments? Or with that, I'll adjourn this January 11th meeting of the Prescott Preservation Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.